All right. A very good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining this webinar, A Guide to Remote Learning. Nestor, could you please slide over to the second slide? So I'm going just to do a very small introduction and going over the agenda of today. Myself, I am Adriana Wong. I'm the marketing manager in Inova Solutions, and I've been inviting you and sending all the emails last week about this amazing webinar that we will have. We will continue with Nestor Diaz. He's the account manager in Inova. He will be presenting you a guide to remote learning. I want to welcome also Carla Lopez. She is the Director of Education in Microsoft Puerto Rico, and one of our customers from St. Francis School, which is Liz Burgos, who will be sharing their experience with their remote learning journey. At the end of this webinar, we will have a Q&A panel where you can ask questions about anything what you like to know in our Q&A panel. Let me give the floor to Nestor. Go ahead, Nestor. Are you ready?
Absolutely. Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for being here. We know your time is valuable, and we are very thankful that you would decide to spend it with us. Just some brief notes on some of the topics we'll be discussing and some of the topics we will not be discussing. What we hope to do today is to give you an overview of the components of the Microsoft Education solution, some of which may be lesser known than others, and to share with you some of the challenges that these components can help you meet and how some organizations are already using them to meet these challenges and to be able to grow despite the COVID-19 situation. We will not be looking at or diving profoundly into any one of the particular components. We will also not be doing a deep dive into any particular use case or scenario. What we would like to do is to give you possibilities, to stimulate your imagination by showing you how other organizations are leveraging these tools and hopefully provide you with a spark as to how you can do the same within your schools. And so let's start. We'll begin by taking a look briefly at Inova and what we do. Then we'll discuss some quick notes and definitions about the topic of remote learning. Then we'll get right into the actual solutions. So very briefly, who is Inova Solutions for those of you who may not know us? Well, we are, quite briefly, the best Microsoft licensing solution provider in the Caribbean and Latin America. And our mission is to empower organizations of all sizes to create business advantages by adopting digital transformation. What does that actually mean? It means that we do not believe in being just another licensing retailer. We don't simply want to put tools in your hands and say, be on your way, good luck. Rather, we want to be step by step beside you in your journey to digitalize your organization. In your journey to adopt these tools, it will allow you to meet challenges like the COVID-19 situation without blinking an eye. Some quick facts about our organization. Our headquarters are in Curacao, where we were born some 11 odd years ago. However, we do have local offices in Ecuador, Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, and Puerto Rico. We have customers on 3 continents, and for the past 7 years running, we've been the winners of the Microsoft Partner of the Year award. One of the biggest reasons for that is that we use what we sell. Whatever Microsoft product you see in any one of our webinars or presentations is already in use or has been tested in some part of Inova. This means that we know the products that we sell because we've used them ourselves. We know how to adapt them to separate and different use cases, and we can help your organization do the same. We can divide what Inova does in 3 main areas with a little bonus 4th one tossed in there just for variety and spice. We, of course, do licensing, and that's a very important component of whatever strategy your organization deploys, because let's be honest, Microsoft licensing can be complicated. Should you license that product in a per core model or a server cal model? Is a server cal model even still available for that product? What is license stacking? And is it preferable to purchasing a larger, more expensive license? We can help you answer all of these questions and ensure that you get the optimum way to license your products so as to balance the value and the feature set that you get with the cost that fits your budget. We can also help provide training both for your end users who simply need to know how to get started and use these tools for their day-to-day tasks, as well as for your IT users who may need to learn how to manage and administer them, may even be interested in getting certified. Of course, all of this is tied in together with our service and solutions departments, which have grown a lot in the past year or so. And these are departments that are dedicated to helping you use these tools, from implementation to adoption to measuring and adjusting the way that you administer and operate them. We can help you get to where you want to be in your digital transformation journey, in your adoption of Microsoft education tools. This is all tied in with our customer care program, which is designed specifically for some of our larger customers who may have enterprise agreements or campus agreements in the case of the educational sector. And this program is designed to maximize the value of the life cycle of your 3-year agreement. There are key stages that we have identified to help you get the most out of your licensing, your discounts, and the benefits that are included with these larger programs. Let's get straight to our topic today. Today, we're going to be discussing remote learning. And we'd like to start off with some definitions, some subtle but key distinctions. And that is, we want to define and distinguish remote learning from distance education. Distance learning implies that there may be some face-to-face interaction or that there is some possibility for students and teachers to meet physically in a classroom. Remote learning, on the other hand, is a term we will use to describe learning where the entire instruction and relationship from student to teacher happens distant, happens without a physical space to share. And because of COVID-19, that's the reality that most of us have been forced into. And remote learning presents unique challenges for different areas of your organization, from IT and school leaders who have to be able to quickly find a solution to maintain quality learning in a completely new situation, to students who want to be engaged and connected with classmates and their teachers. They don't want to simply be looking at a screen bored for 8 hours a day, to educators who then have the challenge of not boring their students for 8 hours a day. They have the challenge to continue to deliver quality education and engage these students in a very strange, frankly, set of circumstances. And of course, there's also challenges for parents and caregivers who may be required to act as at-home tech support to help their children be able to utilize and leverage these tools. Done correctly, a remote learning strategy helps you bridge all of these challenges and provide quality learning for your students in a safe and inclusive environment. Done incorrectly, well, it just magnifies all of those challenges. We at Inova believe that the Microsoft Education solution helps you do remote learning right. It helps you be able to design a strategy that will meet those challenges. And so let's start by quickly looking at some of the components of this solution. We'll go over them briefly and then talk about some of the challenges they help you address and how other organizations are already using them. Of course, when talking about Microsoft for education, or frankly, pretty much any context, one of the first things that come to mind are the productivity components. And this includes things like Office 365, which are the apps we know and love: Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Publisher, Access, etc. And these apps are available for your organizations at a significant discount. In fact, in the case of the online apps, you can get started free of charge. Some of these components, however, may be a bit newer or maybe a bit less well known. One of them is Teams, which of course has come to the forefront with the whole COVID-19 pandemic, and with good reason, because Teams will become the de facto replacement for your physical classrooms. It will be the space that will allow your teachers and organizations to create virtual classrooms and have both one-to-one and group communication. It will allow you to share documents, will allow you to have or keep your students engaged. And it can even serve as a one-stop shop for you to combine all the tools that you use in your remote learning strategy. you have an LMS, you have digital textbooks. Most of these can be integrated into Teams. And so you don't have students chasing around and logging into 7 or 8 different portals. They sit at their computers, they log into one tool, and everything is there for them. Part of the reason for that is some of the other components of this productivity portion of the Microsoft Education solution. Components such as OneNote, which enables teachers and students to organize class materials in digital notebooks. They can leverage digital inking to actually write in their notebooks. And there's been studies that have proven that that action of writing rather than typing helps to improve retention and comprehension in different subjects. So there's true value in leveraging these tools. Teachers can create class notebooks and decide whether they will be the ones to be able to add content to them, and students only have the ability to look and consume that content, or if they'll provide individual notebooks for students to be actually able to generate their own content, or share a notebook so that students and teachers can collaborate. There's also tools like Microsoft Forms, which allow you to create quizzes and surveys with features like branching to be able to route students in different directions based on their answers to previous questions. Forms has the capability to do auto grading for multiple choice or text questions, and it's able to provide for questions such as multiple choice, single choice, short text, long text, even questions with mathematical equations. And what's key about these features is that even if you know them in their commercial environments or in their commercial versions, the education versions of these apps are designed with learning in mind and with inclusivity in mind. And so you're able to leverage features like the immersive reader, which can help students with dyslexia and dysgraphia get the most out of their reading. Features like inclusive math tools, which can help students deal with this difficult subject in the way that engages them the most, whether that's actually typing out equations or inking them with digital inking using a pen and having OneNote interpret that ink, that handwriting into an equation. There's even AI tools that can help students, or that can help show students step by step how to solve mathematical equations. There's tools to improve student-parent-teacher communication, such as live captions in meetings and real-time translation to go past language barriers. But there may also be components that you don't know about, components that may be lesser known, but are just as or even more important in an engaging remote learning strategy. Components such as Whiteboard, which can allow teachers to drive your classes using a digital whiteboard, much like a physical white or blackboard. What's more, you can allow your students to collaborate in real time with you, allowing for an essentially limitless space for brainstorming and sharing of ideas. There's also components such as Flipgrid, where you can define a subject and allow your students to create videos discussing the subject. It's used in thousands of organizations and environments from K-12 to higher education, and can power anything from a simple show and tell to a complete virtual science fair to a defense of a thesis in a higher education scenario. There's also components such as Microsoft Stream, which allows you to record your Microsoft Teams classes and build a knowledge base of content that students can refer to, whether to make up sessions that they were not able to attend or to review for tests and quizzes. Tools such as Minecraft Education Edition, where you can use freely available and already set up lessons to teach subjects such as computer science, chemistry, math, conservation, and much, much more. You can drive a virtual visit to a zoo, or you can teach your students about the elements, or you can teach them about the basics of computer science and programming, all within the game. Talk about engaging. There are, of course, some more transparent, lesser or less visible components, but that also allow for engagement and security, safety for your students. These components are things like Windows 10, which can allow you to deploy devices and give devices to your teachers and students that you can centrally control and that you can apply policies and governance to ensure that the content and the way that these devices are used corresponds to the protocols and the governance policies within your organization. Tools such as OneDrive, where students and teachers can securely and safely store their documents and share them amongst themselves. There's tools for your IT department, such as School Data Sync, which allows you to synchronize registration data for your users, your staff, your students from Microsoft 365, from Office 365, to other learning systems that you may have deployed, and ensure that everything is up to date and that information is properly synchronized. There's components such as Intune for Education, which allows you to deploy those management policies that ensure that your protocols and security is in place to those devices that you've deployed to staff, students, teachers. And of course, all of this has built-in Microsoft security, because Microsoft is more than just a productivity and software vendor. Microsoft is now a security vendor. In fact, Gartner identifies Microsoft as a leader in endpoint protection platform security. And Microsoft provides tools such as Defender Smart Screen to help protect your students from unsafe websites and downloads. Tools such as multi-factor authentication to ensure that identities are protected. Tools such as Windows Defender Advanced Threat Protection, which helps detect and stop malware before it becomes an issue. And even more advanced tools such as privileged identity management tools that allow you to detect risky logins and block them before they become an issue, or trigger multiple factors of authentication if a login is detected to be risky. All of this together makes the Microsoft Education Platform completely different from anything else on the market. And of course, it's built to help you take your organization to a successful remote learning strategy. It's built to help you deal with the challenges that you may face day to day, whether that challenge is budget. Windows or the Microsoft Education solution allows you to get started for a very low cost with licensing that starts at completely free, and as it grows, still has steep discounts, with licensing benefits such as getting free licenses for students if you license 100% of your staff and teachers, and with Windows 10 devices, which are built to be affordable and easy for your organizations to procure. If that challenge is manageability, well, the Microsoft Education solution is built to be managed from a single pane of glass through tools like Intune for Education. If that challenge is productivity, the Microsoft Education solution is comprised of components that most of your users already know and love. Deployment and adoption, it's a no-brainer. They already know how to use the tools. And of course, it's all built, or it's all designed with security built in. And so whether your challenge is, say, driving a fast transition to an online learning situation, because let's be honest, none of us expected this, and we all have to get a solution in place ASAP. Well, Microsoft Education can meet that challenge because most of the components, you already know how to use them. You may even already have them within your organizations. All we need to do is get you started on the pieces that maybe are new to your staff. And there's resources to be able to do that. Even if you have no Microsoft licensing, you can start free of charge. And we can help you get step by step into a deployment strategy that makes sense for your organization. If the challenge is building confidence in these new tools because they may be components of them may be unknown to my staff or to parents, well, we can absolutely help you do that as well. Again, most of these components will be known to your staff and to your student body alike. And even those components that are new, well, there's free, easy to access resources to better drive learning outcomes. Resources like the Microsoft Education Center, which is used by millions of users worldwide and contains how-to guides, training courses, and webinars. And of course, you also have the support of partners like Inova, who will be with you step by step, every single bit of the way to ensure that the Microsoft Education solution is set up correctly and make adjustments if necessary to make sure that you are able to continue your journey to learning success. Perhaps your challenge is maintaining student engagement, and let's be honest, that can be particularly challenging in a physical classroom, even more in a virtual one. Students want to remain connected to their peers and their teachers, but that's hard to do when there's physical distance separating us, when we can't go out. Well, the Microsoft Education solution includes immersive collaborative experiences whether that's working in real time on a OneNote notebook or a Microsoft Word or Excel document, or implementing tools such as Minecraft Education Edition, Flipgrid, and many other tools that allow innovative, different ways to drive your learning. At the end of the day, you have tons of resources available to you and guidance to ensure that your learning is engaging students. And this is not just theoretical. There's real world cases of this happening. Cases like that of Spirit of Math. Spirit of Math is a pre-K to 12 math tutoring service. They take students that are already doing pretty well in math and teach them advanced mathematics. And when COVID-19 happened, they already had challenges. They already had challenges leasing and finding available physical spaces for the students that they served. But now that they would not be able to meet in those spaces, it was going to be pretty hard to continue providing their services. And they faced laying off almost half of their workforce, around 400 employees, because of the situation. Thankfully, they were already Microsoft 365 users. And so implementing and deploying Teams was fairly simple. And in a matter of weeks, they were able to get their students and their staff up and running on the new platform. They were able to save around 400 jobs. And because their biggest challenge in expanding and growing before was finding physical spaces, and that was no longer a challenge with Microsoft Teams, they were able to actually grow through the pandemic. There's also the story of educations like O'Day High School, a Catholic all-boys school, who also faced the challenge of potentially having to close over the winter because of the COVID-19 situation. They were also able to deploy Teams. Most of their staff already knew how to use it. Others were very quickly able to get up and running. And when they faced challenges, they found that Microsoft always responded to their support inquiries within 24 hours. The result? Their IT staff was very surprised to learn that within just a couple of weeks of starting their Teams program, every single teacher was regularly meeting, attendance was up, and students were collaborating and engaged, working together on live Word documents and OneNote notebooks. And in higher education, there's also success stories, like that of the University of New South Wales. And theirs may be the most interesting story because they actually started before COVID. The University of New South Wales offers some of their engineering programs through massively online courses. And it's pretty challenging when you have students that are in the classroom combined with students that are learning from a distance, that are remote learning, and to keep all of them engaged and for them to feel like they're on equal footing. So the University of New South Wales deployed Teams for one of their first year engineering courses. They would live stream their classes, and they would have a TA always monitoring the stream. So if students had a question, the professor could instantly look directly at the camera and address the question from a remote learner so that they would feel like they were in the classroom as well. What's more, this professor decided to do away with textbooks. All of the reference material for this engineering course at the University of New South Wales was created collaboratively between professors, TAs, and students in OneNote notebooks using digital inking. They then decided to do something more, and they added artificial intelligence to the solution. And they created Questions Bot, an Azure AI bot that would detect questions from students that were submitted during off hours. They would find the TA assigned to that student, and they would refer the question to the TA. What's more, QuestionsBot had a machine learning algorithm that allowed it to start building a knowledge base of questions and answers. And eventually, QuestionsBot was able to answer questions without human interaction. Truly, the Microsoft Education solution is only limited by our customers' imagination and commitment. And there are also local Inova success stories as well. And we'd like to hear one of those now. I believe we may have with us, let me confirm, Miss Liz Burgos from St. Francis School. If we do not, we can't tell her story.
Hi, Nestor. No, we have some challenges with her by connecting to this webinar. So she's here, but as an attendee. I'm not sure where it's going wrong, but we will be sharing her story then, I guess, via a video or so, and sharing that with our attendees.
That's absolutely fine. I can speak to the story of St. Francis a bit.
Right.
So St. Francis School is one of the most important private schools and one of the most renowned private schools in Puerto Rico. It's very well known locally. They're located in Carolina, Puerto Rico. They have students from pre-K to 12th grade. They have just shy of 1,500-ish students. They adopted Office 365 A1 in May, but they realized they would need a bit more power, so they stepped up to A3 in August. They already had some of the in Spanish we say the andamiaje, the framework in place. Users were created, but A3 created or allowed for new functionality which users needed to be trained on. And in a matter of weeks, the Inova team, alongside the St. Francis School team, were able to complete this training and get students and teachers up and running on Microsoft Teams. What I would have loved to do is be able to have you hear firsthand from Liz how the students and the teachers have reacted to these platforms. Hopefully we'll be able to do that in a video shortly. But from what we hear, it's been going very, very well. So now I'd actually like to open the floor to our attendees. There's a little Q&A box that you may be seeing on the corner of your screens. So we'd love to be able to hear your questions, whether it's about the Microsoft Education Platform, about Inova's work with several schools in the island, if it's a question directed to Carla from Microsoft regarding the tools available and the licensing available for education and for your organizations, whatever it is, we'll take your questions and hopefully we can provide some guidance.
Before we continue with the Q&A panel, I would like to introduce Carla. Carla is the Director of Education within Microsoft. I would like to give her the space to introduce herself and talk a little bit more about what Microsoft does in the educational segment. Carla, are you ready?
Hi, yes. Good morning or good afternoon, everyone. A pleasure for me to be here with you in this session. As Adriana and Nestor mentioned, I'm Carla Lopez. I'm the education lead for the Caribbean. And yes, I can definitely share some stuff and some help that we have been doing with some of our institutions in the Caribbean and some of the schools. So Microsoft Caribbean has actively and positively contributed to the educational ecosystem in the Caribbean at various levels. We had, in the last few months, we had impacted thousands of teachers, students, and parents, offering sessions in conjunction with partners like, for example, Innova and our team of the Microsoft Store that they are now transforming, and they are focused on helping you and helping parents and even students to maximize and take advantage of all these tools that Nestor presented today, that are our Microsoft 365 tools for education, centralized in our Microsoft Teams platform. So we had helped institutions and school leaders, for example, to develop communities with teachers and make a train the trainer strategy. So each school or region could have champions that could help other teachers, other students, and even parents, that we definitely understand that the parents also need that help in order to help their students in this new virtual reality. So in the past few months, we have impacted more than 30,000 of teachers. And for example, in the Department of Education, they increased their Microsoft Teams usage. They are maximizing their tools, and we saw like more than 800% in just 1 month of usage based on the trainings and guidance provided by the department in collaboration with, as I mentioned, with our partners and with our Microsoft Store team. And we keep supporting. This is, as I mentioned, this is like a cultural change, and we are all learning and defining our new strategies, defining what works, what don't. So definitely you can count with us and with our partners to help you with this new cultural change and with this strategy for remote learning. And we will continue delivering the support. And we will also, this month, we will have some sessions, one for parents, one for school leaders, and one for teachers that I will share with Nestor and Adriana, so you can take advantage of these sessions that we will be presenting at the end of this month. And definitely count with us in everything you need. I will be here responding your questions. So happy to be here and happy to keep helping you with this new remote learning strategy.
Thank you so much, Carla. Well, then we go over to the questions that we are getting. One of those questions is, I'm not sure who will be responding this one, but what does it take for my school to start using Office 365? Maybe Nestor can take this question.
Absolutely. So from a licensing perspective, you would need to decide what licensing is right for your school and be able to procure those licenses. And I'll take this moment to answer a related question. Someone asked if the licenses are free and if there's any catch. For Office 365 A1 licensing, and this is licensing that includes the online versions of Office only, it does not include the installed versions. Licensing is completely free. For A3 and A5 licensing, these do include the downloadable tools and additional features, and we can delve deeper into that in a different conversation. Those do have a cost, but they are available at steep discounts. So just for reference, a commercial E3 license is a license that is worth around $30-something per user. For education, commercial E5 license. For education, an A5 license is somewhere around $5 or $6 per user. They are large discounts for education. Microsoft is really committed to helping get your organizations on board with as small a barrier of entry as possible. What's more, when you license your staff, and that includes both faculty and administrative staff, so secretaries, everybody who works at the school, you will be able to get licenses for your students for free. And that's not even getting into additional programs available for higher education and larger institutions, such as I think it's called, Carla, what's the name for DreamSpark now? The name has changed. Those are available for larger organizations, but it's there's even more licensing benefits.
It's now called Azure DevTools for students.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So there's a very low barrier of entry for you. Now, in terms of implementation, that's where there may be a bit more of a challenge. And I say a challenge, but you have the benefit that, let's be honest, almost everybody knows how to use Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. There's only tiny new features that you have to learn. You have teachers, which you'll have to train on how to use Teams and start their meetings and how to control those meetings. Typically, for our customers, from licensing to deployment to actually going live, it takes them about 2 weeks for a typical Innova customer, for a typical Puerto Rico private school. And that includes getting licensing, deploying licensing, getting people trained, and then setting them on the path to actually use them. So I hope that answers both of those questions.
Amazing. Well, we go over to the next question. It's from Susan Hart from Jamaica. She wants to know if that her school is already using Google Classroom. How can she incorporate any aspect of Microsoft Teams in it? Maybe this is something for Carla.
That's an interesting question. Yeah, sure. I'd love to hear from Carla if she wants to take this one.
Yes.
Yes, definitely. I can add some context. For example, with Microsoft Teams, you will be able to include or integrate also, for example, your Moodle content. If you're already using like an LMS, for example, like Moodle, you can integrate the content inside Teams, and you will not only have the capability of having audio or video calls, you will also manage the integration of content inside Teams. Also, you will have the opportunity to create exams, form, quizzes, and also integrate, for example, other third-party apps like Flipgrid, like Poly, and other educational third-party apps that are already integrated inside Microsoft Teams. So it will not only provide like Google Classroom, the video calls or the audio calls, you will also have other integrations of content and other third-party apps that you can integrate to have the whole virtual class experience inside Microsoft Teams. And also one of the functionalities that is recently published is the Microsoft Teams Insights application that will give you like a dashboard with the whole visibility of how your students are participating in this virtual environment. So you will see the interactions or the participation of students in the exam, in their quizzes, accessing their documents. So we have also that visibility of how the students are participating and taking advantage of these courses online. So you can take this information and maybe be more inclusive and help those students that need the most help in this new environment. So those are some difference and so advantages that you can take with Teams, for example.
To add a bit of context to that, we do have customers in Puerto Rico who take advantage of an integration between Plus Portals and Google Classroom. And frankly, the goal is long-term to migrate them off Google Classroom. But for the short term, what we're doing is coexistence. These customers that we have prefer Teams and the amount of control that they get in a Teams meeting versus a Google Classroom meeting, and being able to store the classes and being able to live at the moment share a OneNote notebook and have everyone working on the OneNote notebook. And all this integration that Teams provides more value for these customers than the Google Classroom does. So they're using that aspect of the Microsoft Education platform, and they're using their assignments in Google Classroom to allow for the integration into Plus Portals. I'll be honest, again, the term or the goal long term is to completely replace Google Classroom, but it is a sort of coexistence that we've seen in some of our current customers.
Great for the answers, and I hope, Susan, it answered your question. And if you have any doubt, you can contact us for more one-on-one session. That's always possible. Our next question, thank you for asking, what type of devices does my school or students need for remote learning? What could you advise, Carla? Seeing, we are in a pandemic and not all parents could afford a very high-tech tablet. So what is your experience now, and what are your recommendations for this?
Yes, in case of the devices, we have a Microsoft team inside our Caribbean that definitely could help you, and we can share some links. I will share some links because we have different devices that you can take advantage and with different prices based on the need and the situation. So I will share a link so you can review those in detail, and we could definitely also coordinate a call with our team that manage devices, so we can help you define what would be the best solution or offering for based on the need.
All right, that sounds great. So whenever you're ready, Carla, please share that link. And I think a lot of our attendees are very interested as well is, hey, what is the devices that we should be using? Another thanks, Javier, for yes, it's called the Microsoft Imagine. Exactly. Thank you for that. I have another question, and it says, okay, everything is new for us, but do we also do for me training? It's in Spanish, but I believe that this person is asking if we also do training. Nestor.
Sure, I'll take that one. And I'll answer it both in English and in Spanish. Yes, there is training both available from Microsoft, which is free of charge in many cases, as well as training, more in-depth training available directly from Inova and from Microsoft partners. So we can absolutely take you, whether it's end users that just need to learn how to use Teams and do a meeting to run their class, or IT staff that needs to be able to learn how to handle policies, how to create users, how to apply policies to meetings, to groups, to devices. All of that training we can handle. En español, la realidad es que sí, podemos hacer todo el adiestramiento. Hay adiestramientos gratis que están disponibles de Microsoft, y Innova, como partner de Microsoft, provee adiestramiento un poco más en detalle, ya sea adiestramiento para usuarios finales, que solo necesitan quizás saber cómo comenzar su clase y dictarla, o adiestramientos para administradores que necesiten aprender cómo crear y modificar usuarios, cómo aplicar políticas a grupos, a usuarios, a dispositivos. Todo ese adiestramiento en detalle lo podemos brindar.
All right. So nice of you to answer this question in Spanish. So I just want to point out that there is a validation process from Microsoft to ensure that you are an educational entity, right? So thank you for the remark. I have another question. Does Microsoft provide training on the school data sync tool? If so, how can I get more information about it? Carla, I believe this is one for you.
Yes, yes, sure. So School Testing is our free service in Office 365 for education that reads the school and roster data from a school student information system. So we definitely had a lot of documentation of how to take advantage of this service or functionality. And we also have like a free deployment support available. So I will share also the link so you can see the documentation, and also you can sign up for the free deployment support.
Right. Thank you for the answer. And I hope the answer was answered to your so that you know how to go further. I think we're starting to wrap up. So here are the last questions. Is there a way we can also store and share documents between teachers and staff only?
Absolutely. So for Microsoft OneDrive, by default, only the person that creates the document has access to it. But you can absolutely configure so that there are spaces. You can use SharePoint or you can use OneDrive. So to configure spaces that are only available to teachers and staff. And to configure spaces that are only available to a particular group of students. So for instance, you don't want your second grade students to have access to first grade student material. So there's definitely ways to leverage access control. I would like Adri to address a question that may have been left may have been lost in the sort of mist.
Okay.
Someone had asked how much additional workload the tools add to the staff. And I would say that once we get past the implementation stage, next step is that the tools are very simple to manage. So they add very little workload to your staff. What we would be doing is transforming the stuff that they did in a physical environment to tasks that they now have to do in a digital environment. So instead of preparing a lesson plan and maybe, I don't know, for a Montessori school, finding an activity that they would be able to perform with their students in person, you would be preparing a digital lesson plan and finding a lesson on Minecraft for education that you can use to have students experience a visit to a virtual zoo, as we mentioned earlier. So it's pretty much the same workload. What we're doing is transforming tasks from physical tasks to digital tasks.
All right. Thank you for that. Thank you for. I did miss that one indeed. Thank you for that. And then let's see. Let's scroll over. I think this is the last question we have from Susan. Are there any training or workshop available for me to get the knowledge of how to use this LMS while also making it inclusive? Oh, I see Carla already started to respond. I hope, Susan, that answered your question. Maybe, Carla, you want to add something?
Yes, definitely. In our Microsoft Educator Center that I put the link in the chat, you will find a lot of free online training, even like learning paths to help you as a teacher or even as a school leader define the strategy, how you can use these tools for their learning, how to include the tools needed to be inclusive and to also help those students that maybe need more help or have some disabilities. So inside the Microsoft Educator Center, you will find all the courses available for free. So you can take advantage of them and even have it like a kind of curriculum with all your badges and recognitions of the courses that you have taken.
All right, thank you. Nestor, the last thing I would like for you to speak about is about our portal where our customers could manage their subscription, etc.
Absolutely, and it's related to sort of next steps. We haven't even touched on things like Azure Labs, on things like additional licensing programs available to educational institutions. So there's a lot of tools out there for the academic sector. A lot of hard work that Microsoft is committed to putting out to ensure that you get the most out of your remote learning. And Microsoft partners such as Inova are committed to that as well, So working with Inova, you will get access to our Modern Workplace Task Force, which is a group of people dedicated to Office 365. You will get access to local teams in your region, which can help implement and guide you step by step through the process of adopting these tools. And within that, you get access to our Inova portal, where you're able to see in real time and modify all the licenses that you have set up. So if halfway through the school year, you decide, oof, I'm going to need more staff, and you decide to hire people and you need more licensing, you can go ahead and up your licensing. Or if something happens and a teacher leaves and you decide, well, maybe I can save this $10, $15, $20 a month, you can bring your licensing down. It all happens in real time, and you'll be able to see the effects in real time in your tenant, and it all happens with a couple of clicks. You may also be wondering, well, how do I get started? Well, we've basically divided or set this up for you in two different spaces. If you don't have any involvement with Office 365, visit aka.ms/office education. You'll be able to get started with the free A1 licensing through that link. You can also visit aka.ms/teams.edu remote for advice and training on deployment. And of course, feel free to reach out to us at Inova, and we'll help you complete that deployment. We can even take care of it for you if you're interested. But even if you're already set up, feel free to visit aka.ms/join remote learning community and connect with other education users and access some of the resources that you've seen and we've discussed in this presentation today. Also, reach out to us and let's have a chat. Let's talk about your remote learning dreams. Tell me about the most far-fetched long-term goal that you want your school to reach, because it may not be as far as you think. I'll close by sharing a story, and it's the story of a bishop called, I've forgotten his first name, but it's a bishop who at the turn of the century, late 1800s, early 1900s, decides to visit his friend who runs a university. And they're discussing the advancement of technologies and how they think the century will end. And this colleague from the university tells him that he believes that education will continue to grow and grow at an even faster pace than it did during the Industrial Revolution. But the bishop is opposed to this. He says, no, I think we've made the advancements we will. I think the next 50 years are just going to be slow and steady. To oppose this, the university colleague says, I think technology will advance enough within the next couple of years that humans will be able to fly. And the bishop says, that's crazy. Flight is reserved for the angels. That bishop's last name was Wright, and he had two sons, Wilbur and Orville. And the point of the story is that our goals, or what we see as far-fetched and impossible, may not be as far as we think. So let's discuss what you think is far-fetched and impossible for your organization. You may have heard the story of the University of New South Wales and thought, that's crazy. I would never be able to deploy something as technical as that. But it may be a lot closer than you think. So reach out to us. And with Microsoft Education, there's a good chance we can make your dreams come true. As a final note, you see a link there at the bottom of the page, innovacorporation.com/webinar evaluation form. I would encourage you to visit that link. There's a link there or a form there where you can evaluate the webinar, share some of your experience with us. It'll also be sent out in a follow-up email where you'll be able to access the slides and even the recording of this webinar. And we'd also like to stimulate you to remain connected with our team. Our next webinar will be on September 24th, also at 11 a.m. And in this case, we'll be learning a little bit more about how to get more out of apps that you already use. We'll be taking a deep dive into Outlook and showing you some tips and tricks you may not know. With that, that's all I had to share with you guys today. I would like to thank you again for your time. We know it is incredibly valuable, and we thank you for spending it with us. And we hope you have a wonderful day and that we'll hear from you soon. Take care, everybody.